Hey, you're on it, I guess.
Having never been to a meeting with the mayor, like we were talking about.
Hi, Rich.
It is 5:30 and I will call this meeting to order. Could we have roll call, please?
Mayor Smith,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Valentine,
Here.
Trustee Stelter,
Here.
Trustee Schwartz,
Here.
Trustee Brenner,
Here.
Trustee Check.
Here.
We have a phone.
Can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
A motion to approve the agenda.
I'll second that.
All in favor? I
Aye.
remember this time. All right, so we are going to move right into our actions and presentations, which is consideration of the selection of a town attorneys for interviews. And there are 5 in the packet. And at this point, I will, and Stefan, would you like to do any intro? Because you were the RFP receiver?
Yeah, so there was one item in the RFP that never got changed the last time we went looking for it, and that was the meetings on Thursday. But attorneys have already, they've submitted, they know it's Tuesday. Okay. And they're large firms as well. So we had a pretty good turnout for, getting 5 attorney to respond to our proposal. I think that's a pretty good response. I will say that when you guys are, and the intent of this meeting tonight is for you to choose the attorneys that you want to interview. And so I want, you can focus on like the quality of the RFP, but I would refrain from any sort of disparaging comments because they may be watching right now. But those, however you guys want to choose, if you want to interview all 5, if you want to choose top 3, that's really up to you. And then we'll start scheduling those interviews. I think the RFP said next week. And I won't be here from Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I'm going to a conference on the Front Range. So if I'm involved in interviews, it'll be by Zoom. Okay.
And I might just add that when we have done interviews in the past, Mayor Backren, well, here's what we did. So we met everybody through Zoom. Actually, last time we did attorneys, we all were in our respective homes doing Zoom. I don't know why. But when we were doing all of our interviews for the town administrators, we all met here in executive session. And we had the applicants on Zoom. So, and then the mayor, we had a set of questions and we did a round robin. Everybody asked a question. The mayor introduced everybody thank you for coming to the town of Paonia. Had all trustees introduce themselves to the candidate. We then launched into the questions. Everybody asked a question. We got to the end and then offered them, do you have more questions for us that I would do as mayor? And then we closed the Interviews. So one thing we probably haven't talked about, and I do not recall. You might remember, how long? Do you remember attorney interviews? How long was
I
it?
think it was 45 minutes.
Yeah, it was pretty
So we
quick.
went right on the hour. We had 15 minutes
In
in
between.
executive for
Discussion.
breaks and discussion.
Yeah, and then we tried to get them on the same, that was for the administrator. I know we were,
As well.
really did
yeah.
that. And the attorneys, I feel like the last time we did it was two, Nick and another one. We might have actually done 2 different days because we couldn't get those
We couldn't
attorneys
schedule.
scheduled.
Yeah.
But depending, so we'll just have to see how we can schedule, before we leave the room, we'll get people's availability. But, and the reason I bring it up is I don't think we necessarily have to have Stefan present. I mean, your presence would be good if you can join by Zoom, but if we wanted, we really do need to expedite getting our attorney. So, even though you're out next week, I think we'll have Sam join us.
It sounds good. to me.
And she would be here, sitting here with us during the executive session. So before does anybody have any questions about the process? Yes,
Okay, so it's
Sure.
the full board.
yes,
Okay, thank you.
ideally.
Mayor, can I offer one more thing?
Sure.
So in the packet, you'll also see questions. I included those just for transparency's sake. If you have any edits to those questions or anything, send them to me. We'll edit them up and then have them ready for your interviews as well. If you want to add questions, please feel free to add those questions and we'll get them added. I just wanted to make sure everybody saw the questions that were from before.
Yeah. And I'll just add that when we do get the questions, they will not be in a public packet.
That's
We will have them in front of us as part of the executive
The
session.
final question.
Yes, the final questions, right. The final questions that everybody agrees on. So if we start interviews really shortly, please, everybody take a look at those questions. They're the last page in the agenda packet. Look at those questions and please let Stefan know if you want to modify some, you feel like there's some we should add. The only thing I heard from Nick when I spoke to him, after he left our employment, he said, yeah, I thought those questions were pretty good. So I'll just put that out there, that he thought they were pretty appropriate since we asked Nick. Since we asked them of him before we hired him. So just so you know that they've had a little bit of airtime, but because now they're in the packet, we might want to throw in a few humans. But if everybody would take a look and get back to Stefan, we'll have a deadline on that perhaps soon, but. All right, so with that, unless anybody else has a question about process, I'll let you all discuss your choices. Any more process? Yes, trustee Swartz?
Just for a matter of time, since this is such a tight timeline, could we say our deadline for getting our questions back to Stefan is end of day tomorrow? If we're gonna do perhaps interviews early next week? Or is that too?
I'm happy with Sunday. So
I would prefer Sunday if we could. I'll be out of town
Okay,
tomorrow,
great.
but how about other folks?
Perfect, as long as we have a deadline, that's,
What's the, we got it with all the resumes?
it's actually the agenda packet.
Yeah, you know what? The other place you can go to see them is the town website.
Okay.
And because I don't remember, I have mine downloaded, so I don't have the date that we received it.
Downloaded it too.
But,
It's Wednesday. Okay.
okay,
Whatever that is.
remember, it was a week.
It's a week ago, probably.
So Sunday by, I guess end of day Sunday, since nobody's gonna read them till Monday probably anyway. But if you can get those in by Sunday, and has everybody seen that they are at the tail end of the agenda packet? Yes, it probably looks a little familiar to you too.
If you just send me an email, I can try to add it to this.
That's why I was asking. All right, any other process questions from any trustees? Okay, thank you. Well, with that, we have no public, so no public online either? Okay, so would you all like to begin your discussion of which firms you'd like to have opportunity to interview?
How do I phrase this? I wanted to skip everybody but the 2 firms. I haven't memorized their 4-letter initials, but the BBDNOs, whatever that was.
MD.
I just saw the experience of some of the others as insufficient, particularly when we have two powerhouses. I believe it's the
One
fourth
in
one.
Lakewood, and that's unfortunate, excuse me.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I didn't memorize the names either, and I should have made notes.
Lakewood is MDBR,
Yeah.
Denver is.
HPWC.
Thanks. Yeah.
HPWC. Yes, it is. I'm on that one right now. The other one struck me as being people who trolling for something to put on their resume and, you know, looking for a job, and nice people
I would just like to have a point of order.
about, yes, I know what you're, good.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Madam Mayor. With those two application responses, I don't think the other ones are competitive. So the question then is why bother interviewing?
Other thoughts? Trustee
Um,
Stelter?
What I found in this, the two Denver firms are eminently qualified, but their travel expenses are very high. And also we are hiring an attorney that will be a prosecutor as well in our court. And we are looking at about $100 per trip over here for that, plus the amount of time that they're here. And that could add up to be a significant expense. One of the things is there's a gentleman in Pagosa. His travel rate is also high. I think that anything we do, we're going to have to go with the IRS travel rate. That's the only way to go with this because we are so far out. And otherwise, the cost is really where we're at on this. $800 for a trip and then $300 an hour. And then prosecution, I believe, is $320 for HPWC. That was their cost. And we don't often prosecute a case, but when we do, it's going to happen. And it's going to be, we will not recover the cost of our attorney through the fines and court costs. And that's a very distinct, if we do it 10 times a year, this is going to bust the budget.
Are we asking for Zoom presence or?
That's what all of them had assumed, Zoom presence. Yes.
So I remember.
But most of them said that they prefer to come. I believe I read in 2 or 3 of them, they prefer a quarterly come to the town meeting. And they all said they were willing to be at Zoom or whatever the generic meeting force that we use. I don't see a problem other than we may want to consider the gentleman that's in Glenwood. He's actually between Glenwood and Carbondale.
And let me just say that, I believe is John Maloney.
That is John Maloney, yes,
Just for a point of reference.
right.
I'm pulling that one up.
And that is, he wanted a salary with the 35 hours a month. And I have no clue of how much we use an attorney. And that's something I'm going to defer to our town administrator. Is that a logical use or do we use more or less?
So since October, we've used significantly less than historically. I think 35 hours is pretty typical. That's what we're seeing in our bills. I can pull up our most recent Kelly PC bill and just take a look.
Okay.
So, I'm on the internet. That's great.
Yeah, it's coming. Okay, sorry. Thinking.
While it's thinking, sorry.
Yes,
Madam
please,
Mayor,
while we're
excuse me.
waiting, yes. Trustee
Um,
Schwartz?
So Town Administrator Wayne, in your experience, have you used individual attorneys before, or has it always been through firms?
Yeah, so my experience with individual attorneys has been phenomenal. The problem is that they end up becoming judges in my entire experience, and I'm having to terminate their agreement with the town because they become an elected judge. But that was Indiana. Typically, though, then we went to firms in both Indiana and Florida, and firms were great. They always had somebody, if somebody took a vacation, couldn't make it to a meeting, they would have, another attorney be a substitute.
Thank you.
Steve Klaus is a very good judge now. He's a very good attorney.
Trustee Brunner, your thoughts?
When I went through the packets, it seemed to me that there were three that would be worth interviewing. It was Murray from Lakewood, Butchner, I'm probably saying it wrong, fellow from Pagosa, and Malone, the guy in Glenwood. I think the fellow from Pagosa, his rate is very reasonable. He said he's negotiable. The fellow from Lakewood, Mr. Murray, he's got a lot of municipal clients, and the guy in Pagosa has got a lot of experience. He's been a judge, JAG officer, and has several small towns similar to ours. And Malone and Glenwood he also seems pretty qualified. His prices are kind of in the middle. He's closer. So it seems to me, there'd be no harm in interviewing the three of them. They're kind of the middle of my ranking. And the HPWC, I think their rates are very high. I mean, the town is kind of rolling in money. If you want to try a really high-priced attorney and see what you get, you might get what you pay for. I don't know. The one thing about interviewing firms is kind of interesting because you're talking to a firm, but how many of them are you going to have in the interview?
If I could answer that.
Yeah.
Each one of these had a person that
Was
would be.
designating a
Yes,
person.
and that's who we would be interviewing. I don't know in the case of HPWC if it would be both Katie and Catherine, but Katie is the one who appeared to be the one who would be dedicated to Pam.
So then would we be appointing the firm or the individual?
I don't know. How do you answer that?
I think it was kind of
We
confusing.
hired Nick, who was part of Kelly PC.
And-
Nick has left and Kelly PC is continuing the contract, but under duress, they don't want it to continue.
So we kind of did appoint the firm.
In a way, yes.
It's a backup,
Yeah.
Right.
and which you don't have with the individuals, just, yeah. You have somebody that will at least step in the interim while we look again. So that's about it. Trustee Check?
That's a good point. I would just agree with a firm might be better for that reason. If the one contact attorney is unavailable, they're usually a backup. So, and I kind of agree with Trustee Berger about the three that he pointed out. The one in Lakewood, Murray, and the one in Pagosa Springs, and
Sure.
yeah,
Yes.
and
It's Buckner and
Wagner, and then the one in, I think consider the one from Glenwood Springs too.
So we're,
Trustee Valentine?
calling me.
This is where I can work on that while nobody's here.
That's fine. Have we just said in so many words that we want to interview everybody? So we turn that on its head. Is there anyone we want to eliminate?
That's not what I said.
Was it?
I was picking 3 out of 5.
You did, I know, but
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
between
That's the
everybody, what
voting.
everybody
Okay, all
said,
right.
I was thinking possibly, I wish I should have taken notes. I think we might have said, one person or another said we want to interview all 5. So I'm gonna just ask
I did not hear that.
Only 4
Okay.
right now
4.
have been
Okay.
recommended.
So do we want to eliminate anybody? It sounds like perhaps that first response was not mentioned by anybody.
It sounds like we're in agreement about that.
Okay.
Trustee Check, I can tell you want to say something.
No, I was, point of order about it. Is this less formal than the?
No, it's supposed to be, but no, I mean, it's not supposed to be. This is good practice for me, so no, let's not. But so I can figure out how to do this. Trustee Chair?
Yes. I kind of agree with Trustee Valentine in that we should narrow it down to those that are real possibilities for us. And I agree that just eliminating one instead of choosing the four. And I think the individual from Grand Junction, she didn't really sound like, Lisa. Borges. Yeah.
Be careful.
Oh,
Okay. I mean, you could say something like her proposal wasn't as complete as you had hoped, didn't have the experience that you were looking for, and that kind of stuff.
right. The words right on my mouth.
These are the people that receive us.
Trustee Schwartz? Oh, Stefan?
So I do have, I do have hours for since December of last year. In December, Kelly PC had 29.2 hours. In January, that was the entire month of January. It was also a lot of election questions, was 31.4 hours. I'm missing February for whatever reason. I couldn't find it here. But for the month of March, it was 12.4 hours. And there weren't as many things that we had to go back and forth on. Now, there are two separate types of hours. So there's general attorney hours, and then there are also hours for specific projects that were in the works. So like water projects. So things needed to be analyzed for legal, and they would come out of our enterprise funds. And so for March, that was under half an hour. It was 0.3 hours. In January, the water was another 11.2 hours. November, the month of November, it was 1 hour. So 1 hour. And Kelly PC's rate at that time was $213 an hour.
Trustee Stelter?
Yes, we are interviewing, but we will probably negotiate with them in some fashion. And that's probably going to bring our costs down unless they are absolutely set on their fees. In which case, it would be good to know right up front. I did not contact anybody's references. That's not my point. I believe we'll delegate that. And that would be something that I would like to have for the next meeting.
Well, if I might, I think we need to decide who to interview tonight. But we wouldn't offer until we have some.
No.
That's what you're saying.
No,
We wouldn't
we're not
offer until
offering,
we had
no.
these responses to
Right.
some of the references. Okay. Anyone else? Yes, Trustee Valentine.
Is $300 an hour from HPWC a deal breaker then? I'm getting a sense it might be a basis for elimination at this point.
Would you like? I don't think in terms of our budget necessarily that's the case. And if I might throw this out, because I looked at all these pretty thoroughly too, I'll just give you my 2 cents. On the 2 individual attorneys, John Maloney is working strictly with home rule communities. So I'm a little concerned that they aren't statutory towns, and there's a big difference between a statutory town and home rule. And Clayton Buckner, he's representing a lot of towns. That's sort of something for me to consider as whether he can take on another one. His are all statutory. And the Lakewood firm is doing a lot of home rule as well, whereas HPWC it's a mixture, but a lot more statutory towns. So I was looking at that, knowing that home rule is very different than a statutory town. and not that all lawyers don't know how to read statutes, but for people with a gut reaction to something that might be going on in our statutory town, I was a little concerned about John Maloney being a single office and only doing Snowmass Village, Newcastle, Cedar Ridge are all home rule, and Glenwood is a city. So it's a step up. I don't even know how you'd manage a city with they have, I don't know. Anyway, so those were just some of the things that I was looking at. And I honestly wasn't looking at price from my perspective as much as do they have the in-house people to handle us? And do they have the capacity to take on another town? Oh, yes, sorry, I'm sorry. Sorry, trustee Bob.
That crossed my mind too. I thought, wow, do they have a night free to be present in our meetings? They're really, really booked up. Now, I don't know how many people are actively attending meetings. But it's been a while since I looked closely at these. That was, one of those was a Singleton, wasn't it? That had all the caseload. And
Clayton Buckner
yeah, I think
is
that was
1, 2, 3, 4, 5 towns that he's attorney and prosecutor for.
Right.
And John Maloney is he is, you know, I didn't write down, but he's with Snowmass, Newcastle, Glenwood, and Cedar Ridge are 4 towns that he is, if I remember, actively working with.
They're in a 2-week cycle. They're probably realistically about 8 days. I don't think anybody meets on Fridays, certainly not on the weekend. So, yeah, it might be an issue.
Well, and if I can add one thing is, and remember, we're doing interviews, so we're not deciding who to hire, we're just deciding who to interview. So, you know, I'm hearing a mixed message of who would like, and there's nothing wrong with doing all 4. It takes time. You know, again, we're trying to make sure that we have the right attorney and we know how important our attorney is. So I'm just throwing that out from my perspective after reading and comparing. Any other comments from, yes, trustee Schwartz?
Yes, okay, so I too did not look at price. It's really because I think like, if we find the right fit for our community and then it's the right fit. We can also waste a lot of money with bad attorney, high or low priced, and I think there's room for negotiations. Mayor Smith, thank you for bringing up the home rule because I did not catch that in Maloney's, and I really liked Maloney's application. I do tend to lean to the firms, but I would like to balance that out with at least one, with an individual. So in my mind, it's like, okay, if we interviewed the 2 firms and 1 individual, I want to have that contrast. I also, even though like, it's very hard for me to break away for 4 hours because I have a full-time job, that's going to be very challenging. I'm also like, well, should we just interview 4? I mean, we saw I don't know what it was like before we had Mr. Cotton Baez, but he was amazing in meetings. And so I think it's worth taking that little bit extra time to find an attorney who is a good fit for us. And if we can schedule meetings ideal at 8 or after 5, that would be ideal when we get to scheduling. So I would be in favor of the 2 firms. And I think Maloney, because he did appeal to me, and maybe a 4th. And there are 2 firms too. I think that was one point of clarification. Murray is a firm and not an individual.
Trustee Bruner.
As far as the individuals go, Buckner, is that, yeah, okay, Buckner, I found it kind of fascinating. I kind of get the hint that he's doing this because he enjoys it. So if we're going to just do 1 individual, I would lean towards him. But I mean, a guy that's doing it because he enjoys it can make a lot of difference.
And he was the one that is representing the statutory towns.
Yeah.
Just to clarify the distinction between the 2 individual.
And he may not realistically be able to fit another client in. I don't know. I mean, I would suspect that Silverton probably doesn't have as much going on as, who knows? I don't
I don't know either.
know.
But, yeah. I do know about Green Mountain Falls. They're being represented by HPWC. That's a cute little town above Colorado Springs. Anyway, Trustee Selter.
Since we're gonna interview, I don't see the difference in 3 or 4. I think that, why don't we interview 4 and just get this done? We're probably gonna find somebody that's a good fit, and definitely the fit with us is gonna really work. That's the biggest point. I miss Nick severely because of that. He was an excellent fit. And we need somebody that will work with us and deal with our foibles and also slap us down when we need it, which is often. So I propose that we interview 4 firms.
Are you ready to make a motion to that effect?
I
Or
will.
is there any other discussion prior to a motion being made?
I make a motion that we interview 4 law firms: HPWC, John Maloney, Clayton Buckner, and MDBR.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you.
Sweet.
Scheduling,
That's right now.
do we do that, or are we gonna do it by, what do they call it?
The doodle.
Doodle, yes.
So what do you think? Administrator Wynn and Clerk Vetter, what would be the best way to get all of our availability and then try making the Rubik's Cube with the attorneys?
I'd say give me the days that, oh, I'm sorry, Stefan, I probably should.
No, I'm gonna be at a conference. Doodle poll sounds great.
I was gonna say, if you give me the days that absolutely can't happen and we pick hours that are in the evening, as long as that's okay with everybody, I'm more than happy to send out a doodle poll. I can set it to where, we've got like one day and we can set stuff right away. So,
Like go around the table and would everyone like to start doing this next week?
Yes.
You said soon.
Something,
Certainly.
I know often in interviews, I'll do 2 rounds, so we'll do like a short round, just like 30 minutes tops, just to get a feel. And then if we're like, okay, there's a few of them that really stand out, then you could do a second interview. Would anyone, where we could divide up the questions? I mean, that would be more interviews, but it could be a little more time efficient.
This is,
Okay.
they are, it's an officer position and I don't get to choose it, so it's
Right.
your process.
Well, I'll just go with our experience. Because it's 4 different interviews, we have a set of questions. We did not do a second round of interviews previously.
Okay.
Because we relied a lot on the references
Gotcha.
and put that in addition to those that round of questions, but we never thought about a second interview. So Trustee Valentine?
When we were doing the first screening set, we were starting with, I think, 10 or 12.
You're talking about the administrator.
Yeah,
Which is
but
okay.
the process is similar.
Mm,
When we got to the serious interviews, we did all of them. And my sense is with only 4, might as well just do the full deal.
I can support that.
I could go anyway, but
and I'll just add that if we're torn between 2, I don't suppose there's anything against doing a follow-up interview with the 2. But I just would not recommend not giving all the questions to everyone at the same time. If I misunderstood what you were suggesting.
That's.
Mayor, if I may, so we just hired 2 new employees and we tried to do it as objectively as possible with score sheets. So we scored those candidates based on the responses to those questions independently. And then the person with the highest score, was offered that job. And so maybe that's something you might be interested in doing as well.
We did not. Previously, we did not have a score sheet. We were going from our gut.
Okay. So, if you guys send me those drafts, I can make, assign some points to each one of those questions. And then, that might be a way to be as objective as possible.
I like that. Yes. So, trustee Vetter, are you,
Not more.
Sam, so Sam,
Still a heart.
Sam, do you need to know just what days to even, trying to get, I don't know if we can get all 4 done in between,
Well, Monday's out.
between the 7th, 8th, and 9th is out as well.
The 9th is out as well, so does anybody have any issues with the 7th, the 8th, or the 10th?
The 8th is our meeting for short-term rentals.
I think it's on the 9th,
Oh, that's a nice.
Is that the 9th?
right? Is it the 9th?
It is the 9th.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
What days again?
7, 8, 9, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
Not Thursday,
Not, well, yeah.
to be
We just-
Friday.
Just said not Thursday.
Yeah. Tuesday, Wednesday, or Friday, and whether you can get people to do Friday evening, I don't know, possibly.
Sure. I'm good.
I mean,
on
we,
all of them.
but I was thinking about the attorneys.
Oh.
Could we do noon
Right.
on Friday?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, then.
Maybe noon on Friday? Is an option?
Noon on Friday?
That works for me.
I'll be driving back.
Mhm.
from Ranch.
I have a conflict.
On Friday.
Yes.
What about, let's see. So, and do you want to add Monday, the 13th in for anybody's availability?
I will be here for that.
That works for me.
But town administrator, Lynn, I feel like you're either part of all of them or not, none of them.
I agree.
That, I think, just to be fair.
And I don't want to score, so I don't think it's appropriate.
So Sam, do you want to try for the 7th, 8th, 10th? No, none at all. We don't want to try for Friday night. We skip the 10th and go to the 13th. So we have 3 days.
I thought the 10th was.
I don't know.
Afternoon.
Well, it was gonna, if we
Like
were,
lunchtime?
well, and
Yeah.
trustee Selter can't make
Oh,
noon on
that's right,
Friday,
that's
but
right.
I don't know if you want to stick our necks out for Friday night.
I think.
Anyway, no, I think this could be open. So we're trying to get everybody's calendars, but that leaves us with 3 days to try to get, so trustee Schwartz, are you available at lunchtime?
Yeah,
On
we could try lunch.
lunches or evenings? You know,
Yes,
right at,
correct.
when are you most available in the evening?
If it could, anytime after 5.
Okay.
Lunchtime or 8 to 9.
I could not do the 8th at lunch or the 13th.
Okay. So now,
Should we just stick with evening?
yes,
Since that seems to be a sticking point.
That opens things up.
Do you have to meet during a weekday or can it be a weekend?
I'm fine with the weekend.
It just means that one of us will have to be here. I'll be here on the weekend, so.
To run the Zoom. And if applicants are willing to work on a weekend and have an interview, I'm good with that.
It's an incentive test. How badly.
I also like, it does feel, I don't want to ask staff to work the weekends because I know that you all work very long hours. So I want to be very cognizant of that. And if we have to move like 4 to 5 and then 5 to 6, I could do something like that. I could just shift my work. I just don't want to get us in the habit of asking you all to work weekends.
Yes. It's fair.
Thank you very much.
Selfishness, that's my birthday weekend, so I.
Oh, yeah, then no.
Let's try.
So we're looking at beginning at 4 on the 7th, beginning at 4 on the 8th, beginning at 4 on the 13th.
That gives us 6 spots.
6 spots. Is that good? Everybody's good? Bill, you good too? Okay,
Sure.
all right.
And just clarifying, I'm sending these to our interviewees, correct?
Yeah, And, yeah, I guess if we're all available, yes.
Okay,
Yeah,
because I
because-
can do that, I can set up a different kind of poll where they can actually just pick the slot they want, so.
So it'll be approximately an hour for each interview. Okay, and we expect you're gonna try to do them all in one day or?
Most likely not.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty.
It's a long day for you.
And you have a single contact through, you got emails for all the firms with a single contact. Okay, so for the doodle poll to go to. Yes, trustee Valentine?
As a former teacher and all that, there's a huge amount of psychological research showing the recent effect. That particularly if we split the day, the most recent interviewee will get a very, very much more favorable view. So we can take that chance, but it biases the interview process quite a bit. So
Maybe we should give a point to those earlier in the day.
Trustee
Or
Brewer?
just if we score as we go,
Yeah.
doesn't that kind of even that out?
I don't know. That's a good point. That's a good point. I'm sure it helps.
Since we're human, I guess that's the best we could do is score as we go.
Yeah.
But, yes,
I was just gonna say, I know when we did ours, like, we were actively interviewing, and then we took time after the interview was when we actually scored, so we weren't distracted, and we got that done before we went on to the next person.
Mhm.
So that might help.
If the interview seems, I can't remember, we were talking about maybe 45 minutes was the longest interview for an attorney. Looking back when we interviewed Nick, and then we'd have, if, depending on if there's two back to back. And I mean, it doesn't have to be on the hour either, I think just allow us enough time to switch gears. Whatever they do, I guess, but some time in between, I think would be wonderful, we had time to just sit and everybody score. You know, work quietly amongst ourselves. Do we feel like we're set? Sam, are you feeling okay about these directions? Any more questions? Have we made it too open-ended?
My only question, I just want to clarify, did you guys say 4 PM on, or was it 5 PM on?
I could do 4 to 5 and then 5 to 6.
Okay, all right, I wanted to make sure, because I thought that wasn't adding up.
Can you go beyond?
I can just go beyond totally.
If somebody could do it start one at 6:30,
Totally.
so after that, okay.
Okay, so I'll just put like 4, 5, 6 on each one and see what comes.
I have an obligation feeding my mother in the evening, so I can skip a day now, but I'd rather not be in a meeting here at, 5:30 to 6:30, 3 days
So you
once
could,
together.
so hopefully the doodle poll, they'll give us more than one choice. Yes. Per attorney.
But potentially we could end up on 3 days.
Yes,
That's something.
yep, I think there's a good chance of that. Dating them and us. Yes, trustee Schwartz.
I'm so sorry. I'd like to rescind a previous comment I made. I hadn't realized the role of staff in this, and so Stefan, Town Administrator Wynn. I didn't realize your all's staff's role is really to run the Zoom, et cetera, and isn't involved in scoring, et cetera. So my apologies on that. We'd love to have you.
Yes, I'm tell.
Trustee Stelter.
The scorecards, how are we gonna get those made up?
When I have finalized questions from all of you, I'll add those and
Thank
I
you.
already have a template. I have a template for it.
Thank you for everything.
And if we get you everything on Sunday, you have Monday to put together our score sheet,
Yes,
and then we
Sunday.
might be starting on Tuesday. So,
Okay.
so everybody keep an eye on your email,
Yes.
please.
Are we gonna get your template to, for our questions?
Oh, you know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Or I can print them off and actually put them in your mailbox. You'll have mailboxes too. You need to, like, you have, yeah, check them.
You care? You want them electronically?
Yeah.
What I may do is when we do finalize, I might print off enough for each interviewee. And then I'll put those in your mailbox. So you have them.
We did scribble on those sheets,
Yes.
and you know, we did have them in writing in front of us because of the round robin. Yeah, paper copies would be good.
So that also, from a human resources standpoint, that is a really good thing to put into a personnel file as well. All of the handwritten notes and things, those are good. Score sheets are also like important for how you make your decisions.
So we'll wait to hear our first interview and then we'll come in and get paper copies before that interview. Everybody send your thoughts on questions. Yeah. Okay, I guess we can call this meeting to adjournment. Thanks, everybody. Thank you. Nels.
I'm sitting in the video, he's in the back of the car, just in his own, saying, Louis. It's like a nice one.
I have
Oh, and is that this for his work?
Yeah, she did. Oh. And he's open tonight. Thursday, yeah. He's now open on Saturdays.
It's technically 6 weeks.
Because it's
I go back to the 7 clinic on Tuesday, and they'll start weaning me off. They'll say, I'm like, why?
She hasn't hated it.
I just wanted to make sure you got